All right, we are live. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you, hey, it's another unlocking Age of Sigmar. So we did one earlier today, if you saw that live with Vince for the Tomb Kings. And I know I've gotten a lot of requests about the Seraphon for a while now. And I'm looking forward to doing it. And I want to find somebody who just kind of shared the passion for an army that I share for armies that I collect. And I couldn't think of anybody better than Marrok Wolf. Marrok, thanks for joining us.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
So, Marrok, you have expressed just how much you love this army. Can you, before we get into your lists and we talk about how some ideas on how to build an army for match play, tell me a little about your experiences with Seraphon in general. I mean, have you played it when it was back in 8th edition? Do you have any experience and viewpoints on how it plays? Is it playing differently now versus before? How you feel about it, and how it works now in match play versus spending a year in open play?
It plays kind of the same. Like, there's still these cold-blooded lizards that never break. They have a lot of staying power in terms of like their armor saves and their relative toughness, and they can also pack a punch, and they bring the monsters like they did before too. So it's still a great army. There's a lot of different ways that you can play with it, and there's some cool little neat changes that happen to some of the units that make them extremely interesting to use.
Now, I remember back in 8th edition and prior, but mostly around 8th edition, some people that played Lizardmen or saw them played or played against them felt that they didn't seem like they were just missing something. There was a couple of aspects of them that they really lacked, and they didn't run, they didn't flee. They had, again, like you said, good armor. There was good spell casting certainly too, but it just didn't seem as much of a mobile army. And there was other things that seemed to be missing. It seemed to be just one step behind in terms of the top tier armies, certainly, but it was more of a middle of the pack on the lower end of the middle. And I personally think that it's jumped substantially in its rankings and its capabilities since then. So when you play, how do you feel about Age of Sigmar and how they are competitively, whether it's open play or match play?
The Seraphon are like a giant utility box, especially when it comes to armies that are chaos. Like, if you're up against a chaos list, the Seraphon are going to do some horrible things to them. They have all kinds of abilities that give them extra damage, extra rend, like being able to reroll their charges or reroll hits, that kind of deal, specifically against chaos keyworded things. And like, not only that, but there's just like their ability to ignore rend and things like that are just things that have upped them from where they used to be. And I think that's a large part of it as well. And a lot of the like aspects of it too, where in older editions it was thought that they lacked the punch. I think it's just because the fluff so upped them up. Like, just the hype for them was higher than it should have been. Like, the Slans were supposed to be these all-powerful mages that just went nuts on everyone, and you put them down on the table. And let's not get it wrong. Like, they were good, but they were not like they were supposed to be in the fluff. And now
the fluff
all the
always
rules
seems
and
to
everything has been in line. Well, I think it's more in line with the fluff than it was before.
The fluff always seems to prop these units up more than they are. Grail Knights are supposed to be these living embodiment, of this or that. These these ungodly powerful heroic characters, and they would just die in droves. You talk about death wizards just laying waste to whole battlefields, and now that's not exactly as much of a thing in match play. The fluff tends to over-exaggerate things for the dramatic purpose, and I think that you're right. There's very few units that live up to the case. When they do, they really do, but it's kind of hard to match the written word and the drama and the stories. What is there one particular thing about the Seraphon for people that maybe not have played it or are new to Age of Sigmar, or have played it in a previous version of Warhammer, that is a fundamental difference now that wasn't the case before, that kind of adjusted, changed, or really enhanced some of their utility?
I think the addition of them being able to ignore rend is a huge, huge boon to the entire army.
Yeah.
Their ability with their Stardrake shields to ignore up to -2 rend has a massive effect on the game, because so many units only have -1 rend or no rend at all.
Yeah, 2 or higher is pretty rare. My choice would be the ability to summon. And while summoning is limited in match play, even for the summoning armies that we know of, that you traditionally would be able to bring in new units onto the table, with the limitations as they are, I know that's going to be the same for the Lizardmen. But when the space lizards went off into space, we didn't know what they were going to come back with. And when they reintroduced themselves into an Age of Sigmar, and we saw the adjustments, the compendium legacy scrolls, the biggest thing that was new was the fact that lizards can now summon other lizards. So I guess they're teleporting down from the space stations.
Yeah, the way they are is you see a lot of references to stars in this army. And I kind of think that's interesting, because on the flip side, there's a lot of things in the Stormcast army that are related to storm. So you have like the Lightning Strike Brotherhood. Well, in this one, you have the Star Hosts and things like that. Like there's a lot of parallels between the Seraphon and the Stormcast, and I think it adds a really interesting aspect to the Order Grand Alliance as a whole, because a lot of these armies sort of feed off of one another in, well, the latest releases anyway, about how they react to armies of destruction and chaos and death. So there's I just really enjoy the amount of parallels that you can sort of cut in between each of these different armies.
Well, why don't we get into the list, because I think that's what people might be tuning in just to see, and then we could talk about them specifically. So for anybody new who's just getting into Age of Sigmar, you probably already know, and for people that have been early adopters like us, who are trying to get into the match play environment that the General's Handbook has opened us up to, there's obviously there's a new structured way to play. There's points, and that changes certainly the competitive landscape, because now you have a finite amount that you can field, and then there's other introductions, like things like battle line units, core units that you have to include based on how big your game is. There's also allegiance abilities, which are keyword specific. So if you are just within the big factions, order, destruction, chaos, and death, in this case order, you have a series of benefits. If you are in a sub-faction, if you stay with all your keywords or within one specific sub-faction, like for instance Seraphon, you'll get other benefits. The immediate ones that we might see would be with certain allegiance keyword uniformity, that you would have certain battle line units, your core units, would be more elite. You have different choices. It opens up better options that might be more expensive. And what happens is, and this is only for certain armies because only few have been released, there are battle tomes that give specific sub-faction allegiance abilities. So new spells, new army-wide abilities, new artifacts that you can give to characters that are not unique. Unique unnamed characters cannot take them. So with the Seraphon, they have had a battle tome, but it was pre-General's Handbook. So there's new war scrolls that were released then. There's new synergies, but we don't have their specific allegiance abilities. Right now we're defaulting to order. So we'll probably do an update at some point because we know that eventually they're going to circle back. And if they don't release a blanket of a bunch of these that were missed, they're going to be releasing new ones at some point. So we'll see some updates. But the ones that are for order are still very viable, very effective, and can work really well. So we're going to talk about that as well. But the main, what we're going to do is we're going to group this into 3 different categories. Like everybody else who's appeared on the Unlockings, Marrok has given me 3 different lists: one at 1,000 points, one at 2,000, and one at 2,500. Now, good introductory game is 1,000 points, played on a 4x4 board. Typically, most organized events are around that 2,000 mark. You'll find some differences depending on where you are and what the local TOs are, what their preferences are and the players' preferences are. But typically, what I've been hearing is nearly across the board, 2,000 points is become the standard, just like 2,500 was in previous editions of Warhammer Fantasy. So we're also going to look at that, and then we're going to look at bigger games like at 2,500, which I really think is kind of the ceiling, because this game just bogs down with lots of status tokens and status effects and synergies that you have to keep track of, and it becomes very difficult when you get too big. But it's possible, and you shouldn't shy away from trying it. So let's start off with your 1,000-point list. I'm going to go ahead, Marrok, and share my screen, and then we're going to go ahead and pull up the first of your 3 lists. So let's see if I've gotten any better at doing this. All right. So you should see.
I see General's Handbook Seraphon.
All right. So that's my splash screen. All right. Let's get your first list up. And I'll be bopping back and forth between the various different war scrolls so that we can. I'll go ahead and pull this up over here. So that we can. No, that's not going to work. And nope. Hold on a second here. For some reason it wants me to go. There we go. All right. So, as we were saying, nope, that's not it. Whatever. Let's just stay with what we've got there, all right, and move on. So we got 1,000 points that we're starting with here, and this is a relatively small game. Again, at a 4x4 board. So why don't we start off by you telling me a little bit about what you chose, why you chose it, how they work together, and I'll pop up the actual war scrolls as we go.
Okay. So this is the Eternal Star Host. We'll go into what the battalion does after we talk about these units for a bit first. So our general is going to be the Eternity Warden, and he is the Saurus, what used to be known as the Temple Guard special character, or not special character, but character. And so before we get into that, the command traits or whatever for them being an order force is called Defiant Avengers. So they're going to reroll battle shock tests for units within 12 inches of the general or another hero in your army. So basically it's taking all of your bravery 10 units and making it even more impossible for them to fail a battle shock test.
Nice.
The items that the Eternity Warden is going to be taking, so his item is called the Phoenix Stone. So he is going to heal 1 wound in every one of your hero phases. And his trait is Tenacious, which is +1 wound. So he is going from 7 wounds to 8 wounds, healing 1 wound in every hero phase. Now, this guy's only has 3 attacks, but he's hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s at -1 rend and doing 2 damage, which is pretty decent. Then he's got his Fearsome Jaws, which is 1 attack, 4 up, and 1 damage. So his attacks aren't like crazy, but where he comes into his own is when you get to his Alpha Warden ability. Now, he's got another ability called Selfless Protector, but there's no slan in this list, so it doesn't matter. The Alpha Warden is Saurus Guard make an additional attack with their Celestite pole arms while their unit is within 5 inches of any Saurus Eternity Wardens in your army. Now, if we go to the Saurus Guard War Scroll.
The Saurus Warriors?
They are the Temple Guard guys.
Okay. I have Saurus Knights. Let me go ahead and grab the Saurus Guard. Good. I'll go pull it up while you're going through it.
Okay. So the Saurus Guard have 2 attacks already with their Celestite polearm, and so they have 2 attacks already. So they're going to go to 3 for being close to this Eternity Warden, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s at -1 rend and 1 damage. They only have 1 wound each and a 4-up save, but when they're next to a hero, like the Eternity Warden, they are so they're created to protect their masters, and if this unit is within 8 inches of a Seraphon hero, you add 2 to their bravery. So they're going from bravery 10 to 12, and 1 to the result of their save rolls. So they're going to bravery 12 and to a 3-up save on foot, just stat by themselves if they're within 8 inches of the Eternity Warden. And that is that's the core of your army, is 3 units of 10 of these guys. But their damage output isn't amazing, so we're gonna need a hero to sort of bolster that a little bit, and that's where the Saurus Sunblood comes in.
All right, that one I have the actual war scroll. So go ahead, I'll jump right over to it. Okay. So which one is this again?
The Sunblood.
All right, there you go, Sunblood.
Okay, so this guy is an absolute beat stick. So he's got 7 wounds, a 4-up save, a 5-inch move. He's got his Celestite War Mace, which he has 5 attacks with, 3-up, 3-up, -1 rend, and 1 damage. And then he's got 2 Fearsome Jaw attacks, 3-up, and 1 damage. He's got his crazy Aeon Shield, which is meaning that he's ignoring up to -3 rend, makes him absolutely insane. So, is if the hit roll for one of this model's attacks is a 6 or higher, then you make D3 wound rolls rather than 1. And if the wound roll for the attack is a 6 or higher, it causes D3 damage rather than 1. So this guy is just pumping out the attacks, pumping out the damage. So he's going to be your beat stick for this army. That's going to sort of be where you want him to deal with sort of enemy heroes or units that you're having trouble taking care of with your Source Guard.
Okay.
Now, if you're needing to deal with war machines, that's where the 2 units of 5 Chameleon Skinks come in.
All right, Chameleon Skinks. I have a question about Chameleon Skinks. First off, how do you view their ability to for the Star Venom, if there's any synergies that add to your hit roll?
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
Now, the reason why I say that is now just because this came up with the viewer earlier today. There's a distinction between how these things are written and in terms of what the results are on a roll for the added effects. So when I look at, for instance, the hit where it says 6 or higher, that means that it could be modified, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So essentially, if you can get a synergy where they get a bonus to hit, this ability procs on a 5-up, essentially.
Yeah, well, I guess it all depends on like how you're doing your +1s. Like, there's some people who are like, okay, I get +1 to my save, so my save goes from a 4 to a 3. When in some cases it says like this: if the roll, so whatever you roll on the die, is 6 or higher. So if you get +1 to hit and you roll a 6, that's a 7, right?
Right, but the thing is that if it says 6 or higher, you can't roll higher on a 6-sided die. So it does indicate that there is a modifier that will be applied to it to get you to that point. If it said if they're on a hit roll of 6, that would be different. But if it says 6 or higher, which makes me think that there's a bunch of synergies that make these Chameleon Skinks even worse, right? Because they do more damage if you could put them in a list that gives them any pluses. So if we have any pluses with with any of your lists, let's highlight that fact, because that's how I interpret it. If it wasn't the case, it wouldn't say a hit roll of 6 or higher. All right, so I interrupted you just because I wanted to try and and throw that out there. But go ahead. I apologize for jumping in there. Tell me more about what your utilization on Chameleon Skinks are.
Okay, so these guys' job is to go around and take out enemy wizards, any straggling war machines, any like characters that are off on their own, because these, and what you're going to do is you're going to use their chameleon ambush ability. So in your movement phase, you get to reveal this unit and board anywhere. Your best bet is to put them into a terrain feature, because if you do this, their perfect mimicry ability gives them a 3-up save rather than a 6-up save. So that's amazing.
That's pretty good cover.
Yeah. And then you've got disappear from sight, which is in your hero phase, you can just take them off the board. And then in your following movement phase, you can just put them back wherever you want. So these guys are teleporting all over the board, shooting at lone characters, war machines, all that kind of stuff, annoying the hell out of your opponent, and taking care of issues that the rest of your army can't deal with. So that's what those guys are going to be used for. Our next unit that we're going to go over is the Salamanders. Now, these guys are basically lizard cannonballs. That's what these guys are going to be used for. So, you still there, Mitch?
Oh, I guess we've lost Marrok completely. I'm going to go ahead and reshare the screen. Hopefully, we'll get him to pop back in, and then we'll continue. So, all right, Marrok, you there?
I'm here.
All right.
All right.
Experiencing some technical difficulties, but I had just finished reading The Disappearance from Sight. So, we've gone over what that does. How would you use it? What would be the strategic value of that beyond the fact that you're playing peekaboo with these guys?
Yeah, well, disappear from sight, you're basically just coming in, your shots you need to do, and then you're getting the hell out of Dodge as soon as possible afterwards. So for like these guys' ability to get in and out of trouble out of nowhere is just, it's where all of their usefulness comes from.
Now, can you bring them back with the ability to deploy them with their chameleon ambush, and then their ability to disappear from sight, to be brought off the battlefield? How do they return, or are they gone? Have they done their job and now they've left?
Well, the way I read this is that, in your movement phase you reveal them, and then in your hero phase you can take them off. And then when your movement phase comes back around, you can put them back down.
Okay, because I'm just trying to see where that says that in the chameleon ambush, because it seems like it's, instead of setting them up, you can then place them onto one side, and even in phases you can reveal a unit that's in hiding by setting it up anywhere in the battlefield. Yeah, I can see why that would be the case. Yeah, it just seems like you can bring them up, you can and remove them, so they're kind of hard to kind of peg, and you'd have to. I don't know how you would be able to engage them if they can show up on the battlefield, and then I think what they do is they stick there until their next hero phase, so they are vulnerable for one turn, and then you can pluck them off and then bring them back.
They're pretty easy to catch if you've got a unit that can run and charge. Basically, like you get a unit close enough, you run in, and then you charge right after, and then
you got to address them, otherwise they're gonna disappear and pop back in. Exactly. All right, what else do we have here? Let's take a look. So we have the Sunblood, we have the Saurus Guard, Chameleon Skinks, and then of course Salamanders. All right, let's go pull those up.
So these are the lizard cannonballs. So what you're going to do with these guys is you're going to park them right next to your Saurus Guard, and when anything comes close to them, you're going to blast them with these streams of fire, which are a 3-up, -2 rend, and D6 damage. But it goes beyond that, because in their abilities, they have something called It Burns. So you roll a dice at the end of the shooting phase for each unit that suffered any wounds from a salamander's stream of fire in that phase. If the result is 4 or higher, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds as the corrosive liquid eats through their armor, flesh, and bone. So not only are they doing D6 damage, but after the fact that they're doing D3 more mortal wounds.
Very nice.
These
Now,
guys,
you sounds like you're using them as a bodyguard. Like you get too close, and then you're going to deal with them. So you don't send them out
exactly,
on,
but
you don't send them out by themselves. They're standing guard with another unit.
with the Saurus Guard, yes. So basically how your line's going to look is you've got your 3 units of Saurus Guard. So you have 1 in the middle, and then 2 salamanders in between that, and then your other 2 on the outside, and then your Eternity Warden in the back, and your Sunblood in the front.
Very nice.
And then your Chameleon Skinks are sort of jumping around in the backfield. And where this whole thing all gets brought together is when we look at the War Scroll Battalion, the Eternal Star Host.
All right.
So in order to get this battalion, all you need is the Eternity Warden and 3 units of Saurus Guard, which we have grabbed. Now, the first ability you're going to get with this, which is, in my opinion, amazing. So you get this Drake Scale Shield Wall. So at the Eternity Warden's unspoken signal, the Saurus Guard under its command lock their shields to form an impenetrable wall of Drake Scale and Snapping Jaws. Add 1 to the result of any save rolls for the Eternal Star Host's Saurus Guard while they are within 10 inches of the Eternity Warden. So not only are they getting +1 to their save for being next to a Seraphon hero, but they're getting +1 to their save for this too. So now your Saurus Guard are rocking a 2-up armor on foot, ignoring up to -2 rend.
Wow, you would need a -2 to go and crack through that. Yeah, that would cry and beg for attention for anything that you have that can cause mortal wounds, because that's going to be a hard shell to crack.
Yeah. And then they've, on top of all of that, they've got their Patient Guardians, which is, while the Saurus Guard that form the Eternity Star Host remain motionless, their weapons gather celestial energy that discharges with the force of a supernova. So if a unit of Saurus Guard from an Eternal Star Host does not move in its movement or charge phases, its celestial pole arms have a damage characteristic of D3 rather than 1 in the following combat phase. So these guys are going to move up to objectives and hold them and not let go.
Very nice.
So not only are you getting a 2-up armor save, but you're getting the extra attacks that the Eternity Warden is giving to the Saurus Guard. And so they're all rocking 3 attacks each with these celestial pole arms that are hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s at -1 rend, and now doing D3 damage apiece.
Oh, amazing. Yep. I think the way that I would have to try to deal with this is get to the objective first. So when they're getting there, they're on the move. Because if you wait till they make, and they're not terribly fast, they're not slow, but they're at a 5-inch rate. You know, cavalry units and very fast-moving units are going to get there before them, flyers and such. But if you let them get there first and plant their shields, man, that is going to be a hard unit to remove. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, so that's your 1,000-point list, a nice introductory list, and it doesn't seem like it would be incredibly hard to collect. You know, you got your 2 units of the Skinks, 2 Salamanders, 3 units of Saurus Guard. These are the specialty guard. You're saying this is the old Temple Guard. They're now called Saurus Guard, and 2 characters. Yeah. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting list. All right, let's go and take a look at the next one. So now, the most common that I see is a 2,000-point list. I really think that, you know, we're probably at a point where that's going to be I guess the default for most events. You know, we might see some events at 1,500 or 2,250. I doubt we're going to see much at 2,500, but it could happen. But this list has a whole lot more to bring to bear. So we'll go ahead, take it away, and I'll jump into the horse scrolls as we go.
Okay, so most people at 2,000 points would take a Slan. I'm not most people. I don't like using a Slan. I've just never had any interest in using him. It's mostly because of the hobby side. I just don't like the big toad. So here in this list, you can see again, we've got the Saurus Sunblood, which we've already gone over. So he is going to be your general. He is also getting the Defiant Avengers command trait, which is letting him all of his units reroll battle shock tests. And then for his trait and his item, he's got the legendary fighter, so he's making 6 attacks with his weapon instead of 5.
Okay.
And then talisman of blinding light, which is making him -1 to hit.
-1.
So
-1
as
hit?
we move, yeah, it's -1 to hit him in close combat.
Okay, -1 to be hit. Okay, got it. Got it.
Okay, so let's go to the next hero in the list, which is the Astrolith Bearer.
Okay.
Now this guy is awesome. He's got 6 wounds, a 4-up save. You know, he's not great in combat. He's all right. But where he comes into being crazy is with these sort of abilities that he gets from planting his standard. So Celestial Conduit. In your hero phase, this model can plant its Great Astrolith and activate its powers. Until your next hero phase, you may not move this model, but you may add 1 to the result of the casting roll when a Seraphon wizard in your army attempts to cast any spells. If the spell is cast, add 8 inches to its range. And then you've got the other ability called Proud Defiance, which is while the Astrolith is planted, you can reroll any failed hit rolls made for this model and any Seraphon units from your army within 10 inches. So this is making your Saurus Sunblood getting a chance to get more 6s to get D3 more wound rolls. And then, you know, the potential of doing D3 mortal wounds if he gets 6s on the wound rolls. Nice. So, yeah. So that there's that little buff there. The next hero we've got is the Skink Star Priest.
All right.
Not to be confused with the other guy, because this guy is actually a wizard, so he is going to be able to unbind spells. So he's got an 8-inch move. He's quite quick. Only 4 wounds and a 5-up save, so this is one of the guys that's probably you're going to have kicking around in the back. He's got his Serpent Staff, so in his hero phase, the Star Priest can level his staff at a Seraphon unit in your army that is within 8 inches, granting them Venom of the 2-headed Celestial Serpent. So until your next hero phase, whenever models from that unit attack with their bite or jaws, a wound roll of a 6 or more causes twice the normal amount of damage. So all your Saurus warriors and your Kroxigor that are biting and stuff, their damage is going to go from 1 to 2.
Sweet.
Then he's got his spell called Summon Starlight, which you're going to keep this guy close to your Astrolith Bearer, so he's going to be casting this on a 5 instead of a 6. If successfully cast, you pick a unit within 20 inches, which becomes 28 inches, which is a huge amount of space, to be bathed in starlight. If the unit is a Seraphon, then you subtract 1 from the hit rolls of any attacks that target it until your next hero phase.
Nice.
Otherwise, subtract 1 from the hit rolls of any attacks that it makes until your next hero phase. If a unit of Chaos Demons is bathed in Starlight, it also suffers D3 mortal wounds. So here's just a little taste of that we hate demons thing.
Yeah, you know, for anybody who plays demons, I'll forgive me for saying this, but you know, anything that's anti-chaos, you know, makes my heart sing, because there's so many chaos players. I mean, it's amazing that the Order even won the summer global event, because almost everybody I know plays chaos, even if it's their side army. It's there's so many people that's their main army. It's very common, so it's a big smile gets put on my face whenever I see these abilities.
So this guy is making it harder for enemies to hit your Saurus warriors. Your Sunblood is already at -1 to hit, so now it's -2 to hit your Sunblood,
which is obscene. A -2 is so good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then, so let's move on to our battle line units, which
All
are the
right.
three units of 10 Saurus warriors.
Okay.
Okay, so these guys are your stat block foot sloggers, which they're pretty decent. They got 1 wound apiece and a 5-up save, but they're ignoring up to -2 rend, so that 5-up save is going to stick. Whether you give them their celestial clubs or spears, they're hitting on the same thing, which is a 4. They wound on a 3 with their clubs, attack with their jaws and their Stardrake shield, which is a 5-up to hit, 4-up to wound, and 1 damage. So their abilities, they've got their ordered cohort, which is just the number of attacks that they get goes up as their model count goes up. These are a decent unit that are just there for body count. And well, once we get into the War Scroll Battalion, we'll see more about what their uses will be.
Do you take them? Which? How do you equip them? Are you equipping because you have 3 units of these guys? Are you equipping some with spears and some with clubs, or all of one type?
I would just give them all clubs because you're wounding on a 3 instead of a 4. The 2-inch range is nice, but I mean, I'd rather be wounding on 3s than 4s.
Got it. All right.
So we got the Croxagors next, and these are my favorite unit in this army.
I think they're my favorite unit in Lizardmen as well. I love everything about them.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. So they've got an 8-inch move, which is just insane. 4 wounds, a 4-up save. They've got 4 attacks with their maul, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. No rend, but it's 2 damage. The Moonhammer, which we'll get into in a minute, and then their Vice-like Jaws, which is a 4-up, 3-up, -1 rend, and 1 damage. So these guys are going to be hanging around your Skink Priest because Croxagor get better when they're hanging around skinks. So you keep these guys around your Skink Priest, and they're going to get to reroll their wound rolls of 1 as long as they remain within 3 inches of this guy. So now we come to the Moonhammer, which is when a Croxagor attacks with a Moonhammer, it swings it in a wide arc that hits a number of foes. Select a target unit and make 1 attack against each model that's within its 2-inch range. You could throw these guys into like a unit of skeletons or anything that's on, like, say, a 25 mil base. They are just going to wreck house with it.
Very nice. Now, is there any concern sitting what is a lot of points and a lot of power back with the Skink Priest? Any concern about that, or is that part of your strategy?
That's why there's 2 units. So you take your unit of 7 and you wrap it around your Skink Priest, right? That's just an aura of protection. And then that way your Skink Priest can move wherever he wants because he moves the 8 inches that the Croxagor do.
Perfect. So, nice.
Basically, you're going to have a force field bubble of Croxagor around your Skink Priest that are just constantly moving around the battlefield wherever they need to go. And then they'll be able to fit into whatever formation you decide to take with your Saurus Warriors and your Sunblood.
I'm curious, with your list, 7 Croxagor. So how does that work? Tell me how that works, because 7 or 8.
Okay.
I don't have the actual General's Handbook here, but for some people that might be looking, go ahead.
Okay, so how this works is they come in a minute-sized unit of 3, right? So what I did was buy 15, and it was just easier to do it this way. So I bought 15, paid for all 15, and then split them up into 2 separate units.
Got it. So you have... I'm trying to see how that works, because I think that there's a rule that says that you're partial. So you're paying for
you're paying for more than you actually have.
You're paying for a lot more. It's a little waste of ammunition here. Is there a reason why? Because
you're
paying for like 6. You're paying for like
No, you're only paying for 5. You're paying for 5.
Really?
because they come in a min size of 3.
Okay, so you're paying for 3 units on one, which is a 7. You got to pay for 3, and then the one that you're the extra. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's 3 times you're paying for it. And then you have 8 on the next one. So you're paying for the 3.
Yeah,
the
so
3.
that is wrong.
So let's just say that between these, you're probably going to have you're probably going to lose a few Kroxigor. So ideally, what you're probably going to do is you're going to have 6 and 6. Let's just say 6 and 6 for the same amount of points. 6. No, excuse me. It'd be 6 and is it 6 and 9? So you have 6 and 9. That would be your 5 times. Okay, not a big deal. I just want to make sure. And just for anybody new to the General's Handbook, there is a section in there that says if you have partial units, you have to pay the full price. Let's say you don't have enough models. Let's say a model count of 10 for 10 guys in the unit, and it costs you whatever the points are, and you only have 7. You're still paying as if you have 10, but you only get the 7. But you have to pay if you have even one more guy. Then one guy in that block, you still have to pay the full price. So it behooves you to break this out into 5 different sets, meaning 6 and 9. Okay, so not much of a difference. But then I think the reasoning why, correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted the 7 is because let me guess, it's exactly 7 guys that fully envelop the Skink Priest. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So then you have to make a choice. You might have a little bit of an Achilles heel opened up for the Skink Priest, or you might have a couple extra guys being his bodyguard. Okay, but that's for the I guess for you as the viewer to make a decision if that's what you want to do. All right. So let's get back to the War Scroll.
Okay. So that's pretty much the whole deal. They've also got their jaws like a steel trap, where if they roll a 6 to wound. Yep. If they roll a 6 to wound for with their snapping jaws, they get to dish out some mortal wounds. So what happens is if you take a die and you roll off against your opponent, who also rolls a die, and if you score higher, your opponent takes a number of mortal wounds equal to the difference.
Really?
Which is pretty needed ability. So.
Very okay. That's those little roll-offs. They kind of scare me because I just know that I'm going to be the one rolling the 1.
Yeah.
All right. Any more on this unit?
No. So we got the last one, which is the Bastillodon.
Yeah. If I had to pick one model out of this army that gives me fits, it's the Bastillodon. I had a game where I threw so much at this guy, and this is the wrong one, and he just would not die. He's just so tough. So yeah, go ahead. You can go and you can get the glory of sharing why. But wow, it doesn't haunt my nightmares, but if anything like this this would be it.
Okay, so let's just start off by saying that this Ankylosaurus is ignoring all of the rend, all of it. So he's basically ethereal. He's got the same rule as ethereal. He's got impervious defense. He's ignoring all rend, and against mortal wounds, he gets to ignore the mortal wound on a 4 or higher, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
He's a monster. He's got 8 wounds. Doesn't get worse as he gets wounded, which is amazing. This guy also has the skink keyword, so if you keep him close to your Kroxigor, they're going to get that extra little benefit from this guy as well.
Oh, yeah, nice. That's right. I noticed that. Huh.
So this guy's got. So you're gonna take the laser beam because it's way better than the snakes. So he's got his searing beam. It has a 20-inch range, 2d6 attacks, 4 up, 3 up, -1 rend, and 2 damage. This is something that's going to let your army reach out and touch somebody and touch them hard. And then, 20 inches is pretty big. Then he's got the meteoric javelins from the skinks on top. This is just kind of like whatever, throwing some extra dice to possibly get some wounds, but you're not banking on it. And then his bludgeoning tail, if you get into close combat with this guy, which you can really use this guy to sort of bottleneck and hold things up because he's going to last forever. So he's got 3 attacks with his tail, 3 up, neg 1 rend, and D3 damage. But one of the, I don't know if that's still in here, actually. It doesn't look like it is. In the older War Scrolls, he used to have a special rule where if he was attacking with his tail and you were in his rear, he got +1 to hit you, but it doesn't look like he has that anymore.
I guess they simplified it. Maybe it just didn't happen enough.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of summoning this guy further onto the battlefield, like pushing him forward, you leaving your priest to cast that summon spell, and just have him plop down 15 inches forward, and then you got a 20-inch range for that shooting?
The skink doesn't get to know that.
Oh, because he's not a slan.
Yeah, he's not a slan wizard.
Okay,
no. So
that's too bad.
I know it sucks a little bit, but and then his Light of the Heavens thing, this is just another, stab at chaos. So if this model's Searing Beam targets a unit of Chaos Demons, the damage characteristic is 3 rather than 2.
Nice.
This guy just hates chaos. This entire army does. And that is the last one. So let's go to the Sunclaw Star Host and talk a little bit about how this battalion works.
All right. So the Sunclaw Star Host. Here we go.
Okay, so for this battalion, all you need is a Sunblood and 3 units of Saurus Warriors, which we have. Predatory Fighters. So Saurus Warriors from the Sunclaw Star Host make 2 attacks with their powerful Jaws and Stardrake Shield rather than 1. So these guys are going to get an extra attack with their Jaws. It's just sort of an extra chomp. And then they've got their Star Charged Celestite. So this ability is going to give your Saurus Warriors a rend value. Also, when attacking Chaos Demons, their weapons also have a damage characteristic of 2 rather than 1.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is just sort of to give your mediocre Saurus Warriors a little bit of a boost. But where the synergies really come in are when you keep your Star Priest and your Bastillodon next to your Kroxigor, and your Saurus Sunblood using his command ability, which we forgot to talk about.
Let's get back to it. I'm going to pull it Sunblood. Let's go pull him up. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's see. Where are you? I'm just trying to bring it up on my phone here.
Okay, I'll read it in the meantime. Scent of Weakness. The Saurus Sunblood raises its war mace, points at an enemy, and gives it a predatory roar. If the Saurus Sunblood uses this ability, pick an enemy unit within 15 inches. Until your next hero phase, reroll fail hit rolls for attacks made in combat phase against that unit by any of your Saurus models. Very nice.
So basically, between this command ability and your Astrolith Bearer, you are rerolling hits all over the place. You're with your Skink Priest, you and your Kroxigor are just going off and killing everything. So this entire list was built around the sort of burning bright light that is the sun, right? So everything's harder to hit and it's easier to hit you because you can't see me. So
very nice. All righty, let's go and take a look. So we're looking at, with 3 blocks of 10 Saurus Warriors, that's going to be able to cover some good ground. Where they go and when they sit on objectives, they're going to be able to hold it for a while, and they're going to be neutering you while they're boosting you. And this Bastillodon is the only big thing you have in the list, but it is worth it at 300 points, man. This thing is rock solid. And for 300 points for what it can do, it may only look like it's got 8 wounds. It's not that big of a deal. But let me tell you something. It is absolutely... you're going to be happy you brought it. Let me just take a look quickly. Yeah, unfortunately, it has the monster keyword, so in match play, it's not going to be able to get the cover bonus, but that's all right. You have a caster. You could always throw up a Mystic Shield on this thing and really, really make your opponents angry.
Yeah, for sure. It's only got 8 wounds, but it's like it has 16. So
Absolutely. I know what you mean. All right, now we're getting into the big boys club. 2,500 points. You're probably not going to see this that often. But, hey, if that's what you like to play, and if there's events in your area where they play it, if you got friends that are interested in playing a big game, save yourself some extra time because it's going to take longer to do it. But this is where you get to bring all your toys.
Okay, so our general for this is going to be the Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur. This is going to be our monster list. So for his command ability, he's also going to have the Defiant Avengers. But he's also got this crazy, crazy ability called Ancient Warlord, which is a Saurus Old Blood is a veteran of battles without number, an experienced leader who is inspirational to its kin, and as it is, terrifying to the enemy. So if the Saurus Old Blood uses his ability, then until your next hero phase, whenever a Saurus hero from your army within 20 inches attacks in the combat phase, pick one of its weapons and it gets 2 extra attacks with it.
Nice.
That's just insane.
That's very nice.
Then he's got, obviously the Carnosaur has his pin down, which is he can add 2 to the result when rolling to hit if he hit with his if he hits with his claws. Blood Frenzy. A Carnosaur tastes flesh of the enemy, becomes a rampaging force of destruction. Once this model has slain an enemy, it can run and charge in the same turn. So this army is just fast as all get out.
Now that's for the rest of the battle, isn't that?
Yes, it is.
That's for the remainder of the game. You can run in charge.
Yeah. It's got its blood roar, so it can cause even the most daring of warrior to turn and flee. So if your opponent takes a battle shock test within 8 inches of a Carnosaur, roll a dice. If that result is higher than the result on your opponent's dice, D3 models flee from the unit, as well as any that flee because of the test.
Nice. Insane.
And then he's got his of course his gauntlet where he gets to shoot sunbolts at people. If it targets chaos demons, then you add 2 to the result of wound rolls, which means that he wounds chaos demons with this sunlight gauntlet on a 2+.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and of course he's got 12 wounds and a 4-up save. I mean, this guy is just a monster.
He is.
Up, we have our Saurus Scar veteran on Carnosaur. That's right. We have 2 Carnosaurs in this list.
What's better than 1 Carnosaur? 2 Carnosaurs.
Absolutely. So we're going to equip this guy with the Celestite Warblade. And you might be wondering, well, why the hell would you do that? Well,
I was worrying exactly that. I was thinking, why the hell would you do that?
Yeah, because he gets 6 attacks with it, and you're consistently hitting on 3s and 3s. There might not be any rend, but who cares? You're throwing more wounds at the enemy, more wounds, more dice, more chances to do wounds.
Amen.
So he's got all the same cool stuff as the other Carnosaur. But we're actually going to be giving the items to this guy. So he is going to have the trait Reckless, which is allowing him to reroll run and charge rolls in a 10-inch bubble around him.
Nice.
And he is going to have the Phoenix Stone, so he's going to be able to climb back up that monster getting worse chart the number of wounds he takes, because he is going to heal 1 wound in every hero phase.
Very nice. Yeah, I like that you don't have to kill something to get it, like a lot of stuff in the death list. And here it's just you get the wound back.
Yeah, which is fantastic. So next up, because this guy isn't going to be using his command ability or anything like that, because he's not the general. Next up, we've got our Saurus Knights, 4 units of 10.
4 units of 10. Yeah, when you... you're playing with all your toys when you could take 4 units of Saurus Knights, 10 each. Oh my god.
Yeah. So all of these guys are okay. Like, they're not great, they're not terrible. They got 2 wounds apiece, a 5-up save. We're gonna give them the Celestite Lances because of the War Scroll Battalion that we took. So they're gonna have the lances. They're going to have 1 attack each, 4-up, 3-up, and 1 damage. something to note is that when these guys have their war drums, they don't have to roll to run. They can just march their and double their move characteristics. So these guys are really fast. Like they're going to be moving 14 inches every turn that they're not charging.
Nice.
They've also got the Stardrake shield, so they're ignoring up to -2 rend. And then they've got this awesome ability called Blazing Lances. So when they charge, their lances, and if the wound roll for a Celestite lance is 6 or higher, and the model charged in the same turn, the attack inflicts an additional mortal wound on top of the wound that it already caused.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, it's on a 6, so, I mean, it's not going to happen too often, but, I mean, what the hell? It's an additional mortal wound on top of the one you already caused.
But you got 40 of them. I think they're going to get some 6.
Exactly, yeah. So next up, we've got 2 Stegodons.
Yeah, exactly. That's I remember back when in like 5th edition when I first got an army with Stegodons, and wow, I fell in love with this model. And so this is just the regular Stegodon, or is this the ancient Stegodon?
This is just, from what I can tell, the regular Stegodon.
Okay,
I think the ancient Steg is the one that has the Engine of the Gods in it, which we didn't take in this list. Okay,
I'm impressed. Most people think it's an auto-include, so this is a way to play without the standard net list type stuff that everybody, supposedly all the cool kids have, but this is a way to be your own cool kid. All right.
So this is a way to play without a Slan and without an Engine of the Gods. So.
And win.
Yeah. This guy's got 10 wounds and a 4-up save. He's going to be using the Sky Streak bow because we want to be able to reach out and touch lone heroes, any other war machines, basically anything that's going to try and shoot down your big monsters. You're going to take this and aim at it. So the Sky Streak bow has a 25-inch range, 3 attacks, 4-up, 3-up, neg-1 rend, and D3 damage. So against most war machines, this thing is going to do the job. And after you're done doing that, you can just charge the Stegodon into combat, because why not? So he's got his Unstoppable Stampede ability, which when a Stegodon attacks with its Crushing Stomps, which its Crushing Stomps is a star, so it's going to get worse or better depending on how many wounds that the Stegodon has taken. And up to any of the wound rolls that for that attack if it charged in the same turn. So it's going to be wounding on 3s for that, or 2s for that, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its Massive Horns, which it's got 3 attacks each with 3-up, 3-up, neg 3 rend, neg 3.
Yeah, that. First of all, it's very rare to find a neg 3, and on top, especially when you consider that it does the amount of damage it's doing. Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah, this guy is absolutely insane. Steadfast Majesty. So this guy, not that we really have any skinks in this list, but skinks can reroll battle shock tests when they're within 5 inches of them.
Okay.
And then you also have the ability to put a skink alpha on this guy, but we're not doing that either. So yeah, this guy is purely for taking out enemy war machines, any wizards that are going to try and put mortal wounds on you, and to support your Sora's Cav when the time comes.
Is there a difference in points if you have a skink alpha on there? I have not looked at the profiles.
It didn't say at all. It's just an extra thing that the Stegodon has on its war scroll.
Oh, but then you get it for free.
Yeah, you can take this if you want to.
So let's see what it does if you choose to take this.
So if a Stegodon is ridden by a skink alpha, then in your hero phase, the alpha can give orders to skink units within 8 inches. If that unit is not within 3 inches of an enemy unit, you can immediately roll a dice and move each of its models up to that many inches. In addition, until your next hero phase, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for that unit. So basically what it is a skink old blood. because the Saurus Old Blood on foot has that pretty much that same ability.
So I know
he rolls a D.
Now I know why you didn't take it, because you don't have any skinks.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. It all makes sense now. All right. All right.
Okay. And then we're back to our Kroxigor, which just are, they have a move of 8 inches, so they're going to be keeping up with your Stegodons. Your Stegodons have this skink keyword, so they're going to get that extra ability from the Stegodons as well. So these guys are just going to roam around with your Stegodons, and they're also going to charge in and help with your Saurus Cav when the time comes as well. So yeah, basically this entire army is a really fast-moving cavalry monstrous infantry list that is just a complete dick kicker that is going to do a lot of damage really fast. So let's go and look at the Firelance Star Host battalion.
All right. We get that. Fire. Let's see here. This is the battalion that you're taking?
So in order to be able to take this one, you need a Scar Veteran on Cold One or a Scar Vet on Carnosaur and 3 units of Saurus Knights, which we have in spades. So their first ability is going to be Azurite Hunters, which is following in their wake of their commander, the Saurus Knights that form a Fire Lance. Star Host, move at the speed of a streaking comet. Add 3 to the result of any run and charge rolls for the Saurus Knights that are within 10 inches of the Scarvet. So not only are they getting an extra 3 inches to their run and charges being 10 inches within the Scarvet, but they're also getting to re-roll their run and charge in a 10-inch bubble around the Scarvet. So these guys are fast. You've got your Blazing Cohort, which is Firelance Star Hosts are saturated with the magic of Azir, causing their weapons to burn with azure flame. If the wound roll for a Celestite weapon carried by the model from a Stormlance Star Host is a 6 or higher, and it charged in the same turn, the attack inflicts an additional mortal wound as well as any caused by the Saurus Knight's Blazing Lance's ability. So now when you roll a 6 to wound, you're causing that wound and 2 mortal wounds instead of just 1.
Nice. All right, let's take a quick look at this list again. So this is a big list. I mean, each one of these 10 units of Saurus Cav are respectable, and you've got 4 of them. We've got 2 characters on Carnosaurs, 2 Stegodons, and 6 Kroxigor. Not bad. You definitely can cover some ground with this list. Absolutely. So, and the name of the game with Age of Sigmar at this point, with the missions that are being used, even if you just use the missions just straight out of the General's Handbook, they're about getting units within proximity of an object, more often than not, location, and then holding it with enough models. At least sometimes it's 5 or more. This sounds like this is something that this army can do. I can just see it marching up, kind of like a Roman phalanx with those Saurus. And well, not a Roman phalanx, that's the previous list, but this unit, quick moving with the Cav, a lot of monster support, certainly scary Kroxigor unit, 6 of them is no joke, whether it's in the 2000 list or the 2500. Any one of these things is going to be something you're going to have to devote some attention towards. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Yep, it's just I don't like using slan. So you got to think up some different and creative ways of getting things done when you don't take one.
Look, it's about preference. You got to play what you enjoy, and if certain models and certain units have the flavor that appeal to you, then take it. There's no one list that is for each of these factions, and from each of these factions. There's no one way to play, and there may be some units that are more effective and work more synergistically with others. But we can build so many different lists. It's not like this. It's not really an army book. There are battle tomes for synergies within a specific sub-faction, but you can go out of faction and do just as well. Here's a good example of not being concerned with the breakout of everything that where these units sit. They're all Seraphon. It's really just playing towards the battalion scrolls, which is a really good way to start. That's how I also start. I know a lot of people that do it that way. They take a look at the battalions, they try to fulfill those battalions, and they find other synergies that might work with the units that are there in those battalions. So all three of these lists definitely express that. Nice stuff. Thanks a lot, Marrok. Any closing thoughts before we close out the show?
Get out there and get your Seraphon, get them painted up, and get them on the table. They're an awesome army, and they deserve a second look. If you're thinking about it, just do it, man. Just do it.
All right, just do it. We'll have to have a little Shia LaBeouf interjection for his "Just Do It." Marrok, again, thanks as always. Looking forward. Take a look for Marrok at Marrok's YouTube channel. I'm going to link it in the notes down below after this thing loads up and after it finishes processing. And also keep an eye out for Marrok. He does put a lot of very interesting conversions and paint jobs on the PMP, the Painters Motivating Painters Google section of the it's kind of an extension to the Warhammer YouTubers community. But this is, as I've mentioned on many shows, a community of people that just try to show off not only what they can do, but as a community, help everybody provide different skills and tactics on how to improve your painting and your hobby, the hobby aspect of this, of what is Warhammer and miniature wargaming in general. And I've seen a lot of great stuff from you, Marrok, very interesting conversions. And it holds a special place in my heart when it comes to this hobby because I love converting. I try in at least one of my armies, but I try every time I can to put a little of my own personal, flair and flavor when I build up my armies, and I try to make it look a little bit more unique than somebody else. So it's just everything is just a mirror image, and I see you do that a lot. And there's some really interesting, really good skills. So check out Marrok's stuff on the PMP as well. And thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody.